Well, folks, we welcome everybody to another edition of our post-game coverage here from the Hawkeye of the Storm, and I'm joined by the wonderful Kachine Alexander, who is still battling whatever it is that took her voice away. Kachine, you were supposed to try some tea. I don't know if it was green tea or what it was. I hope that did the trick. Are we making some progress on the good old vocal cords?
This is what you're going to get.
Well, let's just say we'll just assume it's because you were yelling really loud at your TV because you care so much.
I did not yell at the TV. I did not.
Well, we're gonna give Kachine an easy day here, folks. Unfortunately, the Hawks did not have an easy day, and Iowa drops their third straight. This time at the hands of Indiana, and this time at home. A lot of frustrated fans. I know we got almost 250 people already logged on here. Ready to hear mostly Kachine's take. I don't know that anybody cares what I have to say on this, but I don't know where we start with this, Kachine. I guess we'll kind of just run through some big takeaways. First of all, offense struggled mightily, to say the least. Team finished 34% from three, 32% from, 34% from the field, 32% from three. They actually out-rebounded Indiana, which is what even kept them relatively close. That's the only reason they were even close in this game. 15 offensive rebounds for Iowa compared to just 4 for Indiana. Now, they missed more shots, gave them more opportunities at offensive rebounds, but so many missed shots, so many missed bunnies. That's another trend that has really become a bugaboo on this squad right now, Kachine, is missed layups. Players, I mean, whether it's Ava Hayden or Addison O'Grady or Hannah Stolke, players just missing shots around the rim. Can't have that. They were much better at the free throw line today. They were actually really good at the free throw line. So one stat that you take away and you're like, okay, that's positive. They were 83%. The problem, Indiana actually beat them at the free throw line. They were perfect. Iowa got more, but Indiana was 12 of 12 from the foul line, and the Hoosiers shot 42% from three, made 10 of them. I thought Iowa's three-point defense was really bad at times. Turnovers continue to be a problem, although they cleaned things up to some extent in that second half. Still waiting on the official box score from the University of Iowa. The Hawkeyes finishing with 14 turnovers on the day. So they're actually in the green today, which is a rare occurrence. You can count on one hand how many times that's happened this year against major conference opponents. And Iowa battled to the end, but it was just too little too late. They were never really able to climb out of the hole that they dug themselves in that first half. As far as positive takeaways, because I know there's going to be some people that hop on here and say, first 5 minutes, Corey, you're being too negative. It is a rebuilding year. There are positive things to take away from this game, as there are each and every game. Taylor Stremlo, I thought, had one of her best performances. She was really active on the defensive end. I thought her activity in the full court press, her steals, that's one stat we don't have on the screen, but her ability to create turnovers single-handedly at times kept them in this game. Taylor finished on the day with 5 steals to go along with her 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 7 points. We'll have to add her stat line up there because honestly, she probably would take away player of the game, either her or the other Taylor McCabe. And speaking of Taylor McCabe, they're not in this game if it's not for 4 threes made by Taylor McCabe, because the exception being Addison O'Grady, who, of course, does all her work on the inside. Nobody else shot the ball well. Hannah Stolke, 1 of 6. Sydney Falter, 1 of 3. Kyler Feuerbach continues to give you goose eggs. I'm not sure why she's starting at this point. That's a discussion we can have at a later time. She finished for just 9 minutes played. She was 0 of 1 from the field. It gave them nothing. Gave them absolutely nothing. I'm seeing across the stat line right now, Kachine. I know she only played 9 minutes. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1 turnover. 0 for 1 from the field for Kylie, and 0 for 5 for Tegan Mullaney. 2 of 7 for Ava Hayden. 3 of 9 for Guyton. 2 of 5 for Taylor Stremlo. 4 of 7 for McCabe. So, what do you have to say, Kachine? Like, how do you dissect this one, and how impactful is this game for Iowa's March chances now? Because they finally dropped a conference home game, and that certainly is damaging.
Yeah, I think that 2 things. I'll start with the implications in the Big Ten. They're definitely now playing catch up, pretty much for the rest of the season, because they are now 2-4. They dropped 1 at home, and the season doesn't get any easier. So that one, I think, was pretty damaging, only because now you're playing catch up for quite a while, if not the whole rest of the Big Ten season. So I think that in itself is probably not the best place you want to be with a young team. And based off of how we've seen them the whole year kind of being up and down. So definitely not the best and ideal situation, but at the same point in time, crazier things have happened, I guess. As far as the game itself, Coach Jay's in a tough spot right now because I'm not sure I would know what to do in her situation. Let me explain what I mean. Hannah is ineffective at the 4, right? She's ineffective at the 4. So if you put her at the 5, Sydney Falter is non-existent. So who are we putting at the 4? It's like an impossible situation. The only other option, which is never a good thing to do this far in the season, is to switch your entire offense up. That is also a very big gamble because now you got to learn a new offense to try to figure out how to make Hannah effective at the 4 position. But at the same point in time, you shouldn't be doing that in the middle of January. If anything, you should have done that over break or something. But the middle of January is not a good situation. But Hannah doesn't play well with other bigs because she can't shoot out there. So changing your offense to like a 2 big block situation, I don't know if that helps. But if Sydney was playing well, I could see that being a much easier situation. But now you've got Kylie Feuerbach, who's not playing well, hasn't played well all season. You got Sydney Falter, who really hasn't played well all season or anything close to what she had last year. That's 2 of your top or supposed to be top guards that aren't producing. And then on the back end, you got freshmen. And we know how freshmen are. They're up and down at the same point in time. I don't wish this situation on anybody, especially a first-time head coach. I'm not even going to lie. Sydney Falter has got to step up. She has to. Or else the season is over.
What does that mean? She's got to step up. What does that look like for someone who has the game and the ceiling that Sydney Falter has offensively? What does that look like?
Number one, I'm not really sure what her problem is. And I'm going to say that I don't know what. It's kind of hard to tell from an outside perspective. But at the same point, it's just being aggressive. It's literally just being aggressive, flying in. Like, I remember last year, she was flying in for O boards. I'm talking out of nowhere. It almost seems like she just doesn't have that work ethic this year. I don't know what she's saving herself for. And maybe it's because she knows she's going to be out there as long as whatever. I don't know. But she just isn't playing as hard as she played last year. Part of that is leadership, like we said before. Because Caitlin was going to be on anyone who did not run. Caitlin was going to be on anybody that did not do what the game plan was meant to be. We don't have that this year. And I said that. We don't have that person. And so for me, if Sydney Falter is like our missing piece, because if she's playing well, it opens up a lot for the ability to move Hannah to the 5 at times and things like that. Because again, look what happened today. Hannah's sitting out at the 4, sitting out on the perimeter, not effective. Doesn't help our offense. Then on top of that, they can double down all they want to on Addison O'Grady if she wants to. So I do not wish this on anyone. I don't think anybody could predicted that Sydney Falter would be doing what she's doing now. Like, I'm shocked, actually. Usually people who end the season like that go into the next season with kind of that same momentum. That wasn't the case for her. So, yeah.
With the injury, right? Does that the injury?
Yes and no, because injury shouldn't affect your confidence in what you're capable of doing. And be more so that you're excited to get back into it. That shouldn't change your work ethic. That shouldn't change you flying in for rebounds and being the scrappy player all over the floor. I can't even tell you how many times I saw Sydney Falter on the floor on purpose. Like, not because, she went up for a rebound and fell. I'm not talking about that.
What was the injury? What was the injury? Do we remember what the injury was?
I have no idea. I think it was, I don't know.
Because you and I both know, depending on the nature of the injury, that can cause a person to be hesitant flying in for rebounds, flying after loose balls. I mean, it just can't. I'm telling you from personal experience, when I jacked my shoulder up, had surgery on my shoulder twice, and I mean, I'm not playing college basketball, but just playing pickup basketball, you're still, it's in the back of your head. That can happen with college athletes, can it?
It does. I'm not saying it doesn't, but by this time, it's January. Yeah, like at this point in time, it's January. So I feel like usually that should be done by now. You made it this far. You trust your knee. It's over at this point. So I don't know what else is the problem. And why would you want your year to be like this or end like this? That's what gets me. At some point, you got to turn it on and just go out there and do it. So I don't know what the cause is, but at the same,
I think let me just change it for a second. I think part of the biggest issue with this team, and Jan brought up leadership after the game against Illinois, which I thought that was telling. I went back and watched her post-game availability, and I felt like Jan, I don't know if you watched that, Kachine, but I felt like she was a little edgy in that post-game press conference. Somebody brought it up on this show the other night. They said that during recent appearances on Hawk Talk during the midweek, that she's gotten a little defensive. I have not heard that, but I get the sense that, and you knew this was going to happen to some extent, but I get the sense that she's experiencing her first low as head coach mentally, emotionally herself, not just her players. And everything functions together. She brought up leadership, and she didn't call anybody out specifically, but she did make the statement senior leadership. Mm-hmm. And when you look at this roster, who's a senior? Kylie Fierbach, Sydney Falter, and that's it, right? I mean, I guess Addison O'Grady is technically a senior, and so is Edgar. But Lucy wasn't here last year. So, not to read too far into her statements, but I really do feel like what they're lacking with upperclassmen isn't just about on the court. It appears to me it's also off the court. I mean, do you read the same thing? It's kind of you're trying to read between the lines, and I don't want to get that wrong.
Well, I didn't need to read between the lines. I said that beforehand. That what they don't have is leadership, and that they're missing that kind of leader who doesn't care to be liked. I said that already.
Well, I'll tell you what. Part of the issue, I think, and you've been talking about Sydney's struggles. We've said this before, and I know people love Hannah Stuelke, but let's just call a spade a spade. Her offensive game is not anywhere close to where it should be at this point in her career. It's just not. It is nowhere close to where it should be in her career. 2.5 years into her career, she's played a lot of minutes ever since her freshman year. She hasn't developed the ability to shoot, apparently even from the mid-range. She's not shooting threes, apparently because she doesn't have confidence from outside. She's basically got like one or two moves, and that's probably two moves is probably generous, right? I mean, she is completely limited when teams play off of her and give her space. Because if she can't get to her spot first, especially if she's playing at the 5, she's going to get blocked. And even when she's playing at the 4, we've talked about her I don't know what you would call that, but her I think you've called it kind of a flailing at the basket, trying to go up for a layup. It feels like 75% of the time that gets blocked now. And it doesn't even feel to me like she's confident doing that now. It's almost like a habitual thing where she's just going up to try to draw a foul, and now she's not getting that call. And
I think I don't, like I said, we don't know what's going on in the locker room or any of that thing, but going off of previous knowledge, and if anybody in the staff or knows of whatever is listening, you are in dire need of some kind of mental break, a mental throw out, if you want to call it, of sorts with this team. Meaning, one thing that some people, if not most people, know about Lisa Bluder is one of her biggest strengths was about the mental aspect of the game. Every year there was always something that she implemented, put in, did something. And I remember one year we were kind of like this in a sense. We were struggling. We kind of had dropped 2 or 3. Some definitely games that we shouldn't have dropped. And I remember her having us carry around these big ass rocks for about a week in our backpacks everywhere we went. Didn't matter what was these big, huge rocks of whatever it was. And then before we had this game, it was on our bye week where we only had one game that week. And we met. She had this big trash fire thing going outside, and everybody had to say what was like slowing them down. Didn't matter what was weighing heavy on them, whether it was schoolwork, whether it was pressures of family, whether it was pressures to show up, whatever it was. And then that was what the rock was symbolizing all week. Well, that rock got heavier and heavier as the week went on, because it was like, and then when we threw those rocks away, it was, you could physically feel like the weight lifting off of you. And then it was like for the rest of the season, like we kind of went on a little run. So I'm not saying she has to do that, but she needs to do something, because 90% of the players right now are in their head about whatever they got going on. So you got to figure out a way to get them out of their head immediately, or else this ain't going to be the first or the second or third time we end up in this position that we're currently in.
Well, Mansky, appreciate you being here, sir, and appreciate you hitting the like button. Encourage everybody to do that, folks. We had about 400 people on the line. Hit the thumbs up. It does help us in the algorithm if you're not subscribed. We do this show regularly with Kachine, and we've got men's post-game coverage as well with Coach Gary Close, and football coverage with Don Patterson during football season. So, yeah, a couple things before we get to our first caller. One observation I had, Stuelke's offense being very one-dimensional. That's hurting them a lot. Kylie Feuerbach's offense is just non-existent right now. We all knew heading into the year that Addison O'Grady was going to be limited. And, she was actually one of the probably 2 most efficient players today on that end. Ava Hayden, I thought, came in and gave them some good minutes. But this is an interesting question from Amanda. And I'm not buying into this. First of all, I think my answer to this question is no. It's far too early to start, quote unquote, cutting your losses and say, well, heck with the rest of the season. We're just going to build for the future. No. They're still in the rankings right now. Now, they're not going to be here this next week. We all know that, nor do they deserve to be in the rankings. And not that the rankings really matter at this point. Anyways, but my point is they can recover from this and still make the tournament. And you don't throw your cards into the middle of the table this early in the year and just play for next season. That you don't do that. Mm-hmm. You don't fold. But I also think this team might end up, this team in the 24-25 team, Kachine, may just be better if the vets play less. I don't even know that it's about building for the future. I mean, I don't know that it's like there's the old adage that Coach Fry always talked about, and Coach Patterson has shared this during football season. Coach Fry, if there were two players that were close, he'd play the younger guy 9 times out of 10 because the younger guy had more room to improve and more upside and more time in front of him. I don't even know that that's happening here. Like if you put Taylor Strimlow and Kylie Feuerbach side by side, I'm taking Strimlow every day of the week. It's not like well, the freshmen are playing as good as the vets and the vets need to be substantially better. So we're going to play the freshmen because they have more room for growth. I think you could make the case for Taylor Strimlow, Aaliyah Guyton, Ava Hayden, that those 3 players are playing as good, if not better than the vets in front of them. And, Tegan Mullaney would really help if she could get going, but is there any, you don't like that thought. Is there any truth to what I just said that perhaps you don't cut your losses like you're throwing in, you're folding for the season, but these freshmen are now consistently playing better, even as inconsistent freshmen, than the vets are.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of what she did at the end of the game. She kept in Taylor Strimlow, Aaliyah Guyton. And I think that was kind of like her, let's see what they can do scenario. Because I was shocked that she didn't play Kylie like she normally does, or even Sydney like she normally does in those, like the end of the game scenarios. So maybe the tide is turning a little bit. Because to be in that situation, I would have probably guessed that she would put her starters back in or like the upperclassmen, but she didn't. So maybe we almost pulled it out. So maybe that is the tide that needs to turn. And now maybe she gained a little bit more trust in her freshmen than probably she had before.
Let's go to our caller who's here on StreamYard. We got Troy wanting a part of the show. Troy, welcome.
Hey, Corey. Hey, Kachine. So, I don't know, this might be a bad take, but I almost think that you can't have Hannah and Addie in at the same time, especially if you're going the 4 out, 1 in. I mean, if you have 3 girls on the outside running like a 2-man post where you down screen or back screen or something to get 1 or 2 of them open, I think then maybe it can work. But the 4 out, they just sag off of Hannah, and just that starting lineup, when they start slow, it's always no outside scoring. We're always trying to drive. Everything's just too congested. So, I don't know.
That's not a bad take. That's exactly what I've been saying. That's why I said Coach Jay's in a tough spot, because the best place for Hannah to be is at the 5 spot right now. But she can't do that either, because who's at the 4 spot? Because Sydney Falter is like non-existent at this point. So that's the issue that we have, is we don't really have any 4s.
Could you potentially play Tegan Mullaney? I mean, I'm not saying you start her at the 4, but give her, even though she's not showing you a lot, because she is going back to the Hayden Fryism, because she is a freshman and you need to get her going. Could you just play her more at the 4 and see if you could get her going, kind of trial by fire?
The only thing that I would be reserved in doing that with is defensively, because I don't know if she can guard a 4. That's the only thing that I don't know if she could or couldn't. So if she could do that, then I don't know why we haven't done that. It's not like they've tried it. So, I mean, I think I might have seen her once like that. But It's a possibility. That's the problem that I feel like we're having is we really don't have another four, like an actual four.
Yeah, I also think that maybe Taylor McCabe might need to start just for that extra power from the outside where they actually have to come out to you. Because right now, Kylie isn't giving you that. Lucy isn't giving you that. And Sid isn't giving you any of it. And in order for us to get the ball in, we've got to have somebody who can hit a three from outside and be a threat.
Kachine, you've been critical of Taylor McCabe, but she was the leading scorer today. And, I mean, you could argue she was the best player in a Hawkeye uniform, right?
Yeah, I've definitely been critical of Taylor. I will say this. She can guard her shadow now. So that's a positive. Like, she's not, I wouldn't say that she's like great, but her defensive liability is a little bit less than it was last year, which is kudos to her in that aspect. And I'm sure people talk to her about it. At this point in time, I will take Taylor McCabe over Kylie Pierbach. Now, I'll take anybody over Kylie Pierbach at this point. So
yeah, I don't know, Kylie, honestly. Besides just, I know the psychological side of it, and not wanting to do anything that could destroy a player that you still believe has it in them and could be impactful moving forward. Like, I think I'm not trying to speak for Jan, but if I was in her shoes, I'm probably looking at this saying, look, you know, we may be able to build for the future better with Taylor McCabe and Taylor Strimlow, or Taylor Strimlow starting over Kylie. But we need Kylie to accomplish any semblance of our goals this season. So I don't want to be quick to pull her, even though the younger players.
January.
Huh? But
January.
The thing is she's given the chance. She got the chance right when Sid started coming back.
I know, but what I'm saying is, if you put her on the bench, you're still going to need her bench minutes. And
well,
so
you would hope that she would react the same as Taylor did when she.
I would, yes, exactly, and that's why I would still. I'm not advocating against it. I'm just saying, is it possible that this is how Jan is thinking? That, you know, I always, when we're talking about subs this late in the season, I'm always just thinking, you know, is he or she, the head coach, thinking that you're going to destroy that player's psyche? I don't know. But Taylor really, I thought, responded.
Yeah.
She agreed. Taylor McCabe responded well to going back to the bench.
And that's why I can give her credit for it. But I'm going to be honest with you. I don't give a damn about nobody's player psyche, because that's not the type of players I want on my team. If you are playing like crap, that's the identity that I was talking about, right? Like, everybody's position can be taken at any point. If you start to get comfortable, and if you start to relax, and if you start to do all of these things, you are no longer hungry. And then if I give you a wake-up call and your response is to sit and pout, well, you're going to be sitting and pouting at the end of the bench is what you're going to do. Like, so it doesn't, to me, you're not helping me either way. If I start you and you're giving me goose eggs, or if I sit you and I play somebody else and you're being a horrible teammate and you're all in your head and woe is me, you're not helping me either. So at the end of the day, to me, it doesn't matter at this point. You go sit at the end of the bench and finish out your career that way, for all I care. But and I'm going to play my freshmen, people who want to actually play. That whole idea of psyches and what is her reaction going to be, you should find out. Because what kind of players do you want on your team? Make a statement to the rest of your players. So then they know, okay, yeah, I got to get my stuff together because my spot could be taken too.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks, Corey. Thanks, Kachine. You guys do a great job. Thank you.
Appreciate it, sir. Thanks for the call. Yeah, I get that. I think I agree with you, though, what you said earlier. I think Jan is in an unbelievably difficult position right now. And I made the comment last time out that it felt like she was just throwing a lot of stuff at the wall and seeing what might stick with rotations. And I thought she got a little too cute. And I don't know that I felt that way tonight because, like you said, she stuck with the freshman late.
Mhm.
And, looking at final minutes, we're going to take our next call here. Let me grab the final minutes counts. As I do that, let's go ahead and answer this call. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Kachine Alexander. Who's on the line?
Lomansky, Corey.
Hey, Lomansky, how are you, sir?
The last couple podcasts that you and Kachine have done have been excellent. I've just been listening and trying to learn and soak it in. That's why I haven't called in, because it's been so good that I'm just learning and enjoying the podcast comments. Before the Illinois game, because Jan Jensen doesn't have an email, I emailed Beth Getz about two players. The two players I talked about was Guyton, this is before the Illinois game, and Ava Hayden. And Kachine is such a good coach. She just says such important items. You got to find out who your alpha is. And I guess with our Big Ten record, I think you got to start searching who those alphas are, not in practice too, but in the game. And I think Ava Hayden holds a pretty big key here. The other thing is, Jen is in such a, I'd probably be pulling my hair out, because you have Kylie and Sid that have given so much to this program, and you're probably hesitant to throw cold water on them, but Kachine is coached. And I think we're in January. It's time to be the bad cop, and you're not the good cop anymore. You've got to try stuff to kind of see where your alpha is. And the other thing I wonder what you two think about is, I'm a Hannah fan, and we don't have Hannah running the court, and it's probably Caitlin Clark and other players that were seasoned. Well, isn't there any way to get her back running the court and get plant a seed in this team that we've got to run? Because we sure aren't the great outside shooters. So the only thing I can think of, we're giving up something maybe my first, run the court and get Hannah those fast break opportunities so you're not sitting in the half court.
I agree, Lomansky. I think that running is a skill. Right, number one. We know Hannah has a skill. So the only thing left is for the coaches to demand that she run every possession. Demand that your guards get out and run every possession. That's the only thing left to do. And I know there's so many different things that coaches are trying to establish and do this, that, and a third. But I keep talking about identity. What's your identity? What's your identity? Stick to that. Lisa Bluter that identity was running. Run. Since I was there, I ain't gonna lie. That's what we did for the first 45 minutes of practice. So it's always been like that. She just ended up getting more and more better players to fit her system and things like that. But it's always been run. So I've seen and watched the game in a different way now. And I'm like, they're not demanding them to run. They're not saying, if you do not run, you're sitting on the bench. If you do not run, you must be tired. If you do not run, you must need a break. If you do not run that, you're demanding that of your team. That's the only thing left in my eyes. In order for us to run, you got to demand it. And I agree wholeheartedly with you, is that we have to run. We're probably leaving 10 to 12 points on the board just off of that.
I appreciate that. I want to see if we can do it. And I think we've got Stremlow is a dog. Stremlow is, I wouldn't want to get in a fist fight with Stremlow over something. I think she'd kick my tail because she's so competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Based on her dad, that she can run. She's inexperienced, but she's coming. And I'll end with those comments because there's a lot of great chatters need to talk to you. But I think it's time to sorry gals, the experienced players, but we've got to do something. You've had your time, and I don't really care about starting lineups. I care about minutes. I'm all about minutes. I could care less who starts.
Agreed.
Then you should be fine with the minute distribution today, because Kylie got 9, and Taylor McCabe, who was probably the best player, played 35.
I'm not happy because Kylie would have got 0.
Well, I think you have to play her some. I don't think you can give up on. You said that earlier, Kachine, this season. You don't give up on a player. You can't. I don't. If they want to give up on themselves, that's one thing.
There you go. Like if I make a change and you start pouting and causing other problems, then yeah, I'm that's detrimental to the team scenario. But I wouldn't say give up in the sense of like we stop talking, we stop trying to figure out what the problem is, we stop trying to figure out how to change the shift. But I still have to make the best decision for the team at the end of the day. And right now, it's not you.
I'm trying to find the alpha, Corey. I want to see how Kylie reacts to like going back. You'll find out something about her.
Well,
and that's
she's completely right now, her game is her game. She's not giving them anything. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying that. She's really not giving them anything. So I am and I'm not normally quick to pull the trigger on this. I am totally on board for pulling her. Start Taylor McCabe. I don't like start Taylor Stremmel. I don't care. Honestly, I might start Taylor McCabe, Kachine, over Taylor Stremmel, and I'll tell you why. I think they could use a little fire off the bench, and reward Taylor McCabe.
Mm-hmm.
She stepped up today. It's not a one-time thing. Taylor Stremmel has been playing well, too, but they need better offense in that starting lineup.
Yeah.
And we thought Kylie was going to be a consistent threat from three. She's not at all. When's the last time she made a three? I mean, I'm going to look back at her game logs. I don't know the last time Kylie Fierbach even made a three. So, I don't know how you defend playing her more than what they played her tonight, and I don't think that was injury related. So, Lemansky, I appreciate you calling in, sir, and don't be such a stranger to the show.
Well, you do a great job, and I still believe in this team. I just think we're in a period now where there's no equity from last year. And the other thing is, remember last year, and I'll end with this and hang up. You remember how we all did want Caitlin to get teed up and thrown out, and we're all just sitting on the edge of our seats going, just calm down a little bit? And I kept thinking, we don't want her to calm down. That alphaism, whatever that is, that going in a drive and getting beat up and throwing the ball up and no fear and being an alpha. And the team needs an alpha. And I hope we find it. Thanks for doing such a good job, and I'll hang up.
Thank you, Lemansky. Appreciate the call. All right. Before we get to our next call, I want to run through a couple of stats that might actually surprise some people. So I'm looking at, I'll actually share my screen so people can see what I'm seeing. This is year by year per 40 minute stats for Kylie Fierbach. And the reason I'm drawing attention to this is because I expected when I looked up this stat earlier, I thought, well, I'm going to see someone who has really regressed. And I'm looking at this and I'm not really seeing regression. I'm seeing exactly what she did last year for the minutes she got last year. And by the way, she played less minutes. Go up here and look at her per game numbers. I mean, she's playing 10 more minutes a game this year, but her per 40 numbers are very similar. Very similar. She's shooting exactly the same percent from the field. She's shooting actually less than what she was last year from three, better than she was last year from inside the arc. Her free throw percentage has went down, but her rebounding rate is about the same at about 4. Assists have been a little bit better, same amount of like her numbers are this is kind of who she's been. And so I think we have to realize, first of all, she did have a year in there where she missed because of a serious knee injury. But I think a lot of us, we probably came into this year with too high expectation on Kylie Fierbach. We kind of just expect, well, she's next in line. She's going to step up her game and be the player. She was disappointing last year to a lot of people, but it didn't get talked about because they didn't need her. They had so much guard play last year. They didn't need her. Is that a fair assessment? Kachine, I don't think she's playing worse than she did last year. I don't think she played well last year on the offensive end.
I think she was in shorter increments, so we didn't actually see her in like long stretches because we didn't, like you said, we didn't need her much last year. So this year is a little bit she's being exposed a little bit more this year because it's longer time that we can see her. Because before it was like 2-3 minutes here and she's out.
All right. Before we get to our next caller, we've got Kyle Huseman of HawkeyeReport.com who's with us live from Carver-Hawkeye Arena. Kyle, welcome. Appreciate you taking the time as always, fresh off Coach Jensen's post-game press conference. And I'm curious to kind of hear how Coach Jay is handling this. I know she takes the same approach that most high-profile Iowa coaches take. Business as usual, one game at a time. You're not looking backwards, you're looking forwards. But have you? Let me ask you this to start out with. I ended up going back and listening to the press conference with Coach Jay from the other day after the Illinois game. Do you feel like she's a little more edgy at this point in the season? Because I'm not judging her for it, but it appears that her stress level has went up, and that's natural when your team is stressed.
Yeah, I would say maybe a little bit. I think some of it has to do with some of the calls happening the last couple of around in Indiana.
Okay, we lost Kyle. So normally we don't have an issue in Carver. We had an issue during the Illinois game from Champaign, but I don't believe we've had a Wi-Fi issue from Carver. So we'll try to get him back. Hopefully we don't have to settle for the phone line again. Let's see if we can get Kyle back. Kyle, are you with us?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you now.
All right. Yeah, just to kind of jump back into what I was saying. Yeah, I think the last couple of games, maybe there's been a few officiating things that Jan disagreed with. I think during the game caused her to get a little upset, maybe more upset than early in the season when things maybe were going a little bit better. But yeah, I think, she's a little frustrated with just the fact that I think she's really frustrated with the fact that at times they look good and at times they don't look very good. I think she's been really happy with the way that they've been able to fight back in a couple of these games. Maryland and Indiana today, to be able to fight back and make it close at the end. But I think she's really frustrated with the fact that it's getting to the point where they do have to fight back and they're trying to fix things that get them off to better starts. And I think maybe some of it has to do with, there are some veteran players, and we've talked about whether you want to call them veteran with their on the court play or whatever. But there's just some veterans on this team that are struggling a little bit, and Sita Fulter's one of them. And Jan talked about it a little bit today, just that, they need Sid to be a contributor on this team. And it feels like kind of at times, it feels like the freshman group is kind of the one that comes in and adds that extra fire, maybe something that you would hope for out of a veteran group. So it's just kind of hard for Jan right now, I think, because at times you do have to lean on the veterans on your team, whether it's a Sita Fulter or an Addie O'Grady or Hannah Stolke. But it's hard to balance when the freshmen are coming in and giving the energy that they have. You want that energy on the floor, but if you keep that freshman group on the floor a little bit longer, then you open yourself up to some mistakes that way with them being freshmen. So I think just some of the frustration comes with that they're searching at times for lineups. She talked about today, how they get behind early and you need defensive lineups out there because you can't let Indiana grow the lead. And then, late in the game, you need offense because you have to come back. So you have a different lineup out there. And she's still trying to find that balance of, what five are going to be good on both ends of the floor. And today there were some groups that were good offensively and there were some groups that were really poor defensively. They had a lot of defensive breakdowns. But she still feels like they're close. She mentioned that she feels like they're closer than they are further away, whether fans want to say that they're far away or not. She mentioned that she felt like they got good shots. They turned it over 14 times, 9 in the first half, 5 in the second half, which is probably still 2, 3, maybe 4 more than you want. But she felt like they got good looks today. They just didn't go in. Tegan Mulaney's one goes 0-4 from 3. I think all 4 of those were open threes. Lucy Olson had some shots, in the mid-range that she's normally making that just didn't go. So I think that maybe adds to the frustration as well when you feel like you did a little better in taking care of the ball and running the offense, but it doesn't lead to points because all of a sudden this is the day where the shots aren't going in. So I think it's a culmination of things. She still spoke about trying to keep her head focused on the next game, trying to keep the team focused on the next game and not let this, become a thing where, we've lost 3 in a row for the first time since 2018. That's something that they need to keep out of the locker room and make sure that is not getting into the players' heads. So she's still trying to stay focused on Nebraska on Thursday now.
Do you perceive, and I know you can debate how impactful who's in the starting lineup is versus minutes. I mean, that's not really the question I'm asking, but do you believe that we will see a lineup change soon, a starting lineup change?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. I'd have to look at the media availability schedule to see when next time we get to talk to Jan. You don't really ask about starting lineup things right after a game. That's more of a weekly thing, weekly media availability thing. But I think you could be getting close just because just reading at the minutes. I mean, Kylie Feuerbach plays 9 minutes. If you're planning on playing her less and less, I don't know why you would keep her in the starting lineup. So maybe that's one that could fall out of the lineup. It's hard to say because I don't know that we just saw Leah Guyton go into the lineup the other night and struggled with a few turnovers and ended up only playing 16 minutes. So, it'll be interesting to see if she decides to go with something. I think Hannah Stolke moving to the 5 worked well the other night, so maybe that's something they try to go back to. I feel like maybe. It depends on how important they feel like Thursday is against Nebraska. Do they feel like that's a game that they can afford to lose? If not, maybe you start trying something else just to see if you can spark something if you feel like that's a must-get game. But I would say just looking at the minutes, I mean, Kylie Feuerbach with 9 minutes, she only took 1 shot, 1 turnover. I do believe she drew an offensive foul, but to me, if she's going to continue to get those type of minutes, that would be the player that potentially could fall out of the starting lineup.
I don't know if this, and I'm guessing this wasn't asked today, but maybe a more macro question. How many conversations, if any, have you had with Coach Jay about the development of not just Addison, but of AJ Ediger, of Hannah Stolke? Because I know Kachine spoke to when you move from assistant to head coach, you're not spending as much time with certain positions. But I also gave the illustration, in football, Kirk Ferentz is still working heavily with the offensive line, practice in, practice out. So I asked that question because it seems like they've stalled a bit with development at the post. And I know there's some frustration from the fans. Do you perceive that? Does Jan perceive that? Because I just really do believe it's not just about Addison, and I know Ava's really young. But we talked earlier in the show about the limited offense that Hannah Stolke gives you right now. She's not getting in transition. She is very one-dimensional. She shows no confidence from behind the three-point arc. Teams they don't even care. I mean, they're just leaving her all by herself out there. Have you had conversations with Jan about post-development, where she feels like she's at with that unit?
Yeah, I think he asked kind of 2 separate questions with Ava and Addie, and then Hannah's kind of a different question, which I can get to in a second. I think Addie has shown some good things, especially early in the year. She was pretty good. I mean, she still finished with 11 points, was the leading scorer for a while until Taylor hit a couple of threes there. And so I think Ava Hayden is one that's going to continue to get better and better as the season goes on, as she continues to get more minutes. And really, Jan early in the year talked about how she feels like centers moving from high school to college is probably the toughest thing. Just because maybe you're not facing the same level of competition as a center. There's more good guards in high school than there are really good centers, so it's a little bit different for Ava. But the thing today that I saw and that Jan mentioned was that maybe it necessarily wasn't moves that they made that were poor. It was she felt like they weren't going quick enough. They get the ball and they'd hold it and then they try to make a move after a couple seconds. She felt like maybe her centers today weren't quick enough with the basketball. It was Monica and Megan were obviously just fantastic at catching the ball, make a move and score. Don't waste any time trying to think of what move to make. So I don't know. I'm not a basketball coach to know whether the decision making of you need to catch the ball and make a move and do it, is that a coaching thing? Is that a player in the moment just needs to know? Addie O'Grady needs to know, I catch the ball, I got to make a move and score. So I think that was the thing that I saw today. I just think that it's an interesting question because Ava is someone that I think we're going to continue to see get better throughout the season. So I think it's hard to ask a development question about her only through 16 or 17 games of her career. I think Addie would be one that maybe she's someone that's just about hit her ceiling as a basketball player. Maybe she's not quite what she did in non-conference play was very solid, but maybe she's not able to translate to that to Big Ten play. And then you can coach them up as much as you want, and maybe they just don't quite get there. The Hannah Stolke question, I think she would be better at the 5 right now. We saw her play, in the first half against Illinois was really good at the center position. I think to your point about her comfortability is in the mid range and at the 3-point line. Something that people really haven't talked about a lot this year is that I think the plan was for her to develop a mid range shot and develop a 3-pointer. But that offseason surgery that she needed to have because she was injured the entire season and played with a knee injury the entire season, that cost her the ability to develop that shot. I know she wasn't taking jump shots until the end of the summer, maybe into the fall. She didn't practice through the entire summer. So she was really only able to work on her free throw shooting, which we've seen take a big jump this year. So I think that's the unfortunate thing for Hannah, is that because she needed that knee surgery, it cost her development time and being able to take jump shots and be able to take 3-pointers. Now, if she spent the whole offseason on it and it didn't, maybe it improves, maybe it doesn't. But the fact that we've seen her improve at the free throw line leads me to believe that if she had a full offseason to work on that perimeter game, maybe you see something there. But yeah, it becomes a tough question of, do you want to try to move Hannah to center to see if you can unlock something there? But then what do you do with 3 centers there? What do you do at the 4? Tegan Mulaney would be your only true 4 really then. So yeah, I think that is a tough thing that happened with her injury and what ended up happening there. I think the passing is another thing that has kind of hurt at times. With you try to throwing the lobs to the centers hasn't worked at all. So doing that on possessions and having turnovers entering it into the post, we don't know on those plays what would the post player have done if they can't get the ball on certain possessions. So I think it's a combination of some of the turnovers. Ava Heiden's obviously a young player, and like I said, I think there's a possibility that Addie O'Grady just has hit her ceiling as a basketball player.
I think she has.
Yeah, I think that's certainly possible, which means she's going to have games where she looks good. Maybe she's like a Purdue where she scores 16 or 18 points or whatever it was. But she's also going to have games where, she's a non-factor. I think today's an all right game, 11 points on 5 of 7 shooting. That's all right. I think more of today was the fact that, Lucy Olson goes 3 of 12. I mean, if Lucy makes 8-9 shots today and scores 20 points, we're not talking about Addie O'Grady today, because you say, well, she added in 11 points today on 5 of 7 shooting. So I don't think they need her to necessarily be a big scorer. They just needed to kind of do what she did today at times. And, as long as she can limit, she had 3 turnovers today. I think that would be the bigger issue. At times she's not strong with the basketball. But we do see times where she passes the ball really well. So
I think the biggest issue is that, to Kachine's point earlier, and you alluded to, Hannah's better at the 5 right now, but that's because she doesn't have a jump shot. So, if she doesn't have a jump shot, Tegan Mulaney's a true freshman who's just not ready, I think, specifically in the defensive end yet. What other options do you have? You have all these. My point in talking about the post is not necessarily to pick at Addison O'Grady's ability to score around the rim, but it's that they just have nobody that can stretch the floor. And AJ Ediger doesn't stretch the floor. Addison O'Grady doesn't stretch the floor. I mean, she can hit that little baseline mid-range shot. Hannah Stolke can't stretch the floor. Jada Gyamfi's. I don't know if Jada was brought in. Was Jada? Did anybody know this? Kachine, Kyle, was Jada Gyamfi brought in with the notion that she was eventually going to become a player? Because, I mean, we're 3 years in, and she's not sniffing the floor.
I mean, she was a 4-star recruit, I believe.
Where's that development been?
I mean, I think if you would look at the recruiting rankings from a year-to-year basis, as you go down the rankings lower and lower, I think the hit percentage goes down a little bit. I mean, Kate Martin would be a perfect example of someone that was on nobody's recruiting radar, and look what she did. And then you have players like a Jada Gyamfi that's a 4-star recruit, and it's kind of so. I think women's basketball recruiting rankings maybe are a little different in terms of the hit percentage goes down a little bit quicker than in men's basketball or a football or something like that. But yeah, I think to your point, it is a concern that you don't have someone that can stretch the floor, and that you are considering, is Hannah Stolke better at the 5, which then, like I said, Tegan Mulaney would be your only true 4 at that point. And, she really is the only true 4 on the team at this point. But that's, at 17 games in, that's just kind of the reality of the team. That's not necessarily a coaching issue. That's not necessarily a personnel issue. I mean, I shouldn't say personnel issue. It's just the way it is. So, if Hannah Stolke doesn't have a perimeter shot, that's something you have to work with. You have to find a way to get around that. If Tegan Mulaney's not quite ready to go, you've got to find a way to win without that, which is what they're doing. And it's a tough position to be in for Jan. As a first-year head coach, this is the first time where she's making the final decisions on who needs to go into the game and what situations. And right now she has a team. I mean, Taylor McCabe just said it tonight, that they ran with that same lineup for the last 6 or 7 minutes of the game. And they happen to be the ones that really kept them in it towards the end of the game, and Jan stuck with them. But Taylor said, I feel like any 5 can do that on any night. And for a first-year head coach, that's not necessarily what you want. You want to be able to say, hey, here's the group that I want to go with late in the game. And right now, like James was saying, you try to find the lineup that's defensive when you need defense, and you try to find the lineup that gets you offense when you need offense. But in the middle, when you need a little bit of both, it's just if you don't have people that are stepping up on a nightly basis. Lucy Olson has 8 points tonight. She's someone that needs to be on the floor, but it's hard to give her bigger stretches when she's going to shoot 3 of 12. So if you're going to have that much inconsistency on a night-to-night basis, it's hard to know who to go with in certain stretches. And early in the game when they're getting behind, the freshmen can do it at times, but then like a Tegan Mulaney, goes 0-4 tonight. Leah Guyton didn't have any turnovers tonight in 17 minutes. She had 4 and 16 against Illinois. So that inconsistency makes it really hard to know who to sub in, what lineups to go with, what lineups to try to ride for longer amounts of time, and that's what they're still trying to work through right now.
Kyle Huseman of HawkeyeReport.com and his team over at On3. Kyle, anything else before we let you slide? Anything that stood out from the game or from Jan's post-game press conference?
Yeah, I just think that all of a sudden now Nebraska becomes a pretty big game on Thursday. I think if they can build on, because like I said, I think 14 turnovers is probably still a couple more than you want. But I think for the most part, they did a pretty solid. They outscored Indiana 24-9 off points off turnovers. That's huge. And they won on the glass again, 38-31. It's just if they can build on 14 turnovers today and rewatch the film and maybe cut down on a couple, because I know a couple of them were illegal screens. So I think live ball turnovers, maybe 10, 12 of them. Tonight, it was just, they didn't make the shots. So if this can be a night where even in a loss where you score 67 points, if you can build on the turnover numbers being down and go through the film and say, hey, we got good shots tonight. Here's what we did to limit those turnovers. Here's what we did better with our decision making. Maybe it's something you can build on. Maybe that's the optimistic view, but I did feel like they did better today with the turnovers, and it was more just shots didn't fall. Like I said, I felt like Lucy Olson got some good looks. Tegan Mulaney got 4 good 3-point looks. There's other nights where she's going to make 3 of those that are wide open. But I do think Nebraska all of a sudden becomes pretty big because you fall to 2-5, and you still got USC, UCLA, and Ohio State left. So I called today before the game. I called today a probably should win game, not a must win. I would say Nebraska's probably a must win on Thursday now.
You can follow him at Huseman Kyle, and again, read all his post game coverage on your computer or smartphone on HawkeyeReport.com. Kyle, it's been great. I always appreciate your time and your expertise and your insight, and we'll talk to you Thursday.
Yep. See you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Appreciate Kyle. And Kachine, anything to add to that conversation? I know.
Not really. I mean, he kind of said some of the stuff we were already talking about. Nebraska is definitely a must-win. Can't go down to 5. And then it's Nebraska. So, that's always a must-win in my mind.
And it's a must-win.
I don't care if it was 4-2. It's still a must-win in my eyes. You cannot lose to Nebraska at home. No.
But it's as big of a must-win as we've had on either the men's or the women's side right now, because this team's reeling now. 3 straight losses, and they drop 1 at home against a team in Indiana who's probably going to be ranked very soon.
Yeah.
5-1 in the conference.
Yeah.
But they've lost a lot too. 4-1. They've lost quite a bit, Kachine. Right?
They did. Their non-conference was a struggle for them. They were probably still trying to find themselves.
Well, and I'm talking personnel. They lost a lot from last season.
That's true. Yeah.
And maybe they're starting to come into their own. I don't know. I have to go back and look at what wins they've had, but again, 4-1 start for the Hoosiers so far this year. Super chat here coming in from Erica. Erica says, Kachine, please join our staff. We need your approach. Jan changes rotations too much. How can the girls get used to playing together if they are changing rotations all the time? So Erica wants you to be part of the staff, Kachine. So take that as just a compliment, not flattery, but a compliment. Let's go to our caller who's been on hold for quite a while. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Kachine Alexander, who's on the line.
Hi, this is Annie from New York.
Hi, Annie.
Hi, guys. I really think the last 2 games, they had their chances to win this game.
They did. Mm-hmm. They had tons of second chances in the last 3 to 4 minutes of this game.
Thank you. The frustration has been enormous. They're missing open shots. They're missing foul shots, and we won't talk about the turnovers.
Well,
They've had so many chances, and the last game against Maryland, they should have had that. It's not like this is such a disastrous season, because it's not. Because they've had so many chances to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
They got to up it. They got to up it.
They got to want it.
They got to up it. Thank you.
They got to fit. I think the big, like today, the difference, if you just want to look at one thing that stood out, they got to finish around the rim, for Pete's sake. Like, how many opportunities down there in the last 4 minutes, Kachine, did Iowa get a rebound and get a second or a third or a fourth chance, and they don't finish around the rim?
They don't. Yeah. They had so many chances to win this game, and the last game, too.
Yeah.
We got to do this. We got to do this. All right. I'm sure you share my frustration.
I can hear it, and this is a placed event, Annie, so we appreciate your call.
It's just difficult to see them missing these open shots, missing foul shots, and they had turnovers on the first play of the game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We need to clean it up. That's all I'm going to say, because they can do this.
A lot of things to clean up, Annie. Absolutely. Hey,
they can do it.
Be safe out in New York, and hopefully we're talking about a win on Thursday.
I hope so. Kachine, take good care of yourself.
Thank you, Annie.
Feel better. Feel better, you guys. Always great to talk to you.
Thanks,
Have
Annie.
a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
I remember, Corey, it was my senior year, and it was senior night, and we were up 30 on Illinois. I'll never forget it. And they came back to the point where, like, we had to win, like, shoot free throws to win. And I remember being like, there's no way in hell we're losing this game. There's no way we're losing this game. I told everybody that we're not losing this game. Like, it's not happening. And I remember Yolette Law in the press conference after was like, literally, Cash, you could see the determination. Like, every rebound was mine. There was no, like, that's the, like, when you say want it, when you're in those games at the end, like, you have to put your mind that we are not losing this game. We're getting every rebound. We're flying in there. We're doing everything. We're doing the little things. That's what I call it, right? The little things, because every shot's not going to fall. That's where Sita Falter was so good last year. Is when our shots weren't falling, she was like the white knight on the shot. Like, that's what she was last year. It was like, oh my God, thank God, because she was saving us in a lot of situations. I feel like we don't have that missing piece. Like, I don't know, maybe they're just out there to have fun, which is like one of my biggest pet peeves. I can't stand when people say that. I am not on this court to have fun.
My big two things that I'm looking for this coming Thursday. All right. And we're not totally transitioning off this game, but, you know, we talk about it being probably a must win at this point in the year. The two big things I'm looking for, I want to know what the lineup's going to be. Not to beat up Kylie Feuerbach anymore, but this is the last thing I'll say, and we can move on from that discussion. I do think other players have earned a chance to start at this point, whether it's Taylor McCabe or Taylor Strimlow. Those are probably the only two options that you have for that other starting spot. But I mean, I kind of ran through her per 40 numbers. Listen to her stats for this season. She's averaging 5.9 points per game, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, 1 steal, 2.6 rebounds. She's shooting 65% from the free throw line. She's shooting 25% from 3. And Kylie is shooting 31.6% from the field as a whole. Those numbers are really bad.
Hell, Jada might be able to do better than that.
I agree. I mean, seriously.
With the same amount of time.
That's what I'm saying. Like, at this point, I don't know that there's any way you can possibly, unless you're going to go with the psyche notion, like you're trying to protect her psyche in hopes that she turns it on. But I'm waiting for even signs. Now, she had like, 1 or 2 games at the very beginning of the season where she played really well. She played well down in Charlotte against Vatek. But that has been the outlier. That has not been the norm. She's not just in a funk. This has been the norm. That has been the outlier. So, who's the starter? What's the starting lineup look like? I shouldn't be disrespectful to Leah Guyton because, I could see them starting Aaliyah. I think you and I could both see them starting Aaliyah. We saw them do that at Illinois. So maybe she should be in the mix as well there between Taylor Strimlow, Taylor McCabe, Aaliyah Guyton. But any one of those three, I wouldn't have a problem with any one of them at this point starting.
The problem is if we want Hannah to be at the 5, then that means 2 of them got to start. But go ahead.
Yeah, that's kind of why I said Aaliyah's probably not starting. Although, could you start? Could you go with a lineup of Aaliyah, Lucy, Sid, Hannah, and O'Grady? I don't know how much that does for you. You still have the issues with Hannah being kind of uncomfortable at the 4.
Yeah, you would have to become more of a either a run and gun team or you got to do set plays. You can't run a motion offense with Hannah at the 4.
They need to run more.
Yeah,
they
I agree.
need to run more. They're not good enough in the half court. And by the way, if people are curious about Indiana's numbers, as it relates to points given up per game, Indiana's in the bottom 7 of the Big Ten in point per game defense. So they are not inside. We'll do the math there. They're not inside the top 11 in the Big Ten in scoring defense. Hey, Kyle said earlier he thinks that they got a lot of open looks and just missed them. They have not been very good from 3 all year. We know that. They've had games here and there where they've made a number of threes. Taylor gave you 4 tonight. If Taylor McCabe doesn't give you 4 threes, let's see, Strimlow made 1 off the glass, and Guyton came in and made 1. That's it. So I'm Mulaney was 0 of 4. Olsen was 0 of 3, and then a Falter and Feuerbach combined for 0 of 2. Super chat coming in here again from Erica. Thank you, Erica. I think the team is slow in general. They hesitate too much, especially when there's a 3 to take. Is it lack of confidence or something else?
Probably a little of both, I think. Because I think a lot of shooting is confidence. That's probably maybe 80%. Because you got to actually want to score and know you can score. So I would probably say leaning heavily towards confidence than anything else.
Lomansky coming back with the super chat. Thank you, Lomansky. Says, thanks, Cash, for showing up for us under the weather. We need you. Okay. Let's go back to our phone line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Kachine Alexander. Who's on the line?
Hey, Corey. It's Christy and Gilbert. How are you?
I'm good, Christy. How are you?
Good, good. Hey, Cash. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So I have 2 questions. The first one's for Cash because she's the only one who's ever been a recruit. As a recruit,
how do you know, Christy? How do you know? I'm just kidding.
I took a guess.
Go ahead.
That was a good one.
So my question is, as a recruit, like if you were one of the recruits looking to come into Iowa, would what's happening right now at Iowa impact how you view coming to Iowa? Would it change your mind, or would you be like, I'm committed and I think this is a rebuilding year, and then when I get there, it's going to get better? Like, how would you have viewed it as a recruit?
It depends on what their reasoning to begin with was why they were coming to Iowa. Meaning, if you were just coming here for the buzz, you're probably not coming here anymore. Right? Like, if that's all you were coming here for, then that was it. If you were coming to Iowa because of the staff, the culture, the fans, everything else, then you would still be here. Like, you'd still want to come because you can make an impact next year. The one thing that I would say, if you're a player like, Deal, let's say, right, she can clearly see that she's probably going to start next year. Right? Like, she can
probably be the main piece.
Correct. Right.
So
it depends on what their reasoning was, why they even committed in the first place.
Good answer.
And then my second question is about O'Grady. When she's down there and they're feeding her, is it just me, or did she just have butterfingers like over half the time. I
Yeah,
just feel like she doesn't grip the ball. Like she just doesn't. It like bounces off her hands all the time.
Sorry, your comments are funny, and I'm trying not to laugh, or else I'm going to go into a coughing fit. But so yes, she doesn't have good hands by nature. So that's kind of like you either have hands or you don't. It's kind of like, you know, like a wide receiver. Like you can't go put a lineman out there. Their hands are just not good. Some just have better hands than others, and unfortunately, she doesn't have the best of hands. Like there's some times where she catches things, I'm like, oh, but then there's like easy things. I'm like, oh my God, how did she miss that? She just doesn't have great hands.
Okay, I just didn't know if that was just me or
No,
what I'm seeing is what I'm seeing.
Correct.
All right, well, thanks, guys, and Cash gets feeling better.
Thank you.
Appreciate the call. A lot of good questions in the chat too. I don't know that we have time to get to all of them, but a lot of people who are engaged. It's amazing. This team. The question was last year when Caitlin Clark graduated, or I should say left. She graduated and left. The question was, would the fans stay locked in? And this team right now is what, 2-4 in the conference, and these fans are kind of acting like football fans are when Iowa football is doing poorly. I'll be honest, Kachine, I've been doing this for 4 years now, this show, for football and men's basketball. When men's basketball fans, when their team loses and they start to go on a they just check out. You know, and not all of them, but a lot of them just check out. They get apathetic. So I give credit to the fan base because you could easily just check out this time of year. You know, hey, I'm going to watch the playoffs. The fact that this many people show up for a show like this, I think, is just a microcosm of how locked in the fan base is still. And that place was still full today. It's going to be full. Obviously, the season is sold out. Fans aren't going to stop showing up. And this team's not out of the NCAA tournament race. We need to make sure we've established that. But they got to get some. They're kind of like the men. They have to get some signature wins. And the men have the advantage right now of they're above 500 in the conference. They haven't dropped a game at home. The women now are below 500. They have dropped a game at home. So without question, this week lines up totally differently, totally opposite for the men and the women. The men are playing with house money. They go out to California. You know, we hope they get out there safely. It sounds like they're in a plane right now to Southern Cal. But if they can go out there and steal one of two, again, play with house money, you're feeling great heading back to Iowa. The women are in.
It sucks. So, I mean, well, they in the worst diamond spiral right now, so they could definitely pick that one up.
Well,
Coach just called them delusional, so he done lost his team already.
There is some drama.
I cannot believe that man called his team delusional in a press conference. Lord have mercy, Jesus. It's so crazy.
How will the guys respond is the question, right?
You saw how they responded. They just got smacked at Rutgers.
They did.
And Rutgers is the bottom of the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I think we figured this out, and I know it's a different sport. Football showed it's hard to travel 3 time zones.
Yeah, that's right. That is
now, USC came and smacked Illinois yesterday, so it is possible. That's a long trip out to the East Coast. But my point is, Iowa can go out there, play with house money. They're above 500. The women have to win on Thursday, and I'm not gonna. If they lose, I'm not gonna say it's over, but it's gonna be a big. That's a big hole to climb. 2-5 is a big hole to climb out of. Well, the way the schedule's made up, 2-5 is a big hole to climb out of because you drop games at home. In this case, they would have lost to 2 unranked opponents at home. All right, let's see. Super chat from Sheila. Thank you, Sheila. And I don't see the comment. Let's see. This may be the comment that was supposed to go with it. Subbing is still off. Hayden was doing great, made a block, and then was pulled. Did you feel like the rotations were any better today than they were at Illinois?
How many people play more than 10 minutes?
Well, Tegan Mulaney played under 10 minutes. Callie Dearbach played under 10 minutes. Taylor McCabe played 35. Honestly, I mean, I'm looking at – I don't know about when people were pulled and, inserted, but as far as –
play more. I would say that. I think that she was giving us, like, a lot of energy, which is something that this team needs.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There was another here. There's a comment here from Stacy. This is kind of a general comment. We've been talking about it throughout, but how would you answer this? How do the Hawkeyes turn this around? We know the challenges that are in front of them, how difficult it is to address some of these personnel issues mid-season. So how does Jan and the staff keep this thing from going off the rails? First of all, getting a win Thursday and trying to put Band-Aids on some of these problems that ultimately can't be fixed until you can recruit more.
Sydney Afalter. We could do without Kylie. I'm gonna be honest with you. If she doesn't play any better, we could do without her. But she has to play better because it messes up rotations. It messes up everything when she's not playing well. And I mean, again, at this point, I put in Jada at the 4 because I need something. Like, if Hannah is gonna give me 1 of 6 at the 4 position, well, Jada, you're gonna have to play because I need Hannah at the 5. Like, it just is what it is at this point. So, I think that the key to us turning it around is Sydney Afalter.
Okay. And what do they need from her? What is that?
Exactly what we had last season. I need her with that ferocious intensity. I need her diving on the floor. I need flying in from left field. We don't even know who got the rebound because she in there and we can't see her in the trees. Like, I need that. Sid. That's what I need.
Okay. Hope Sydney Afalter hears this later. She should be hearing it from her coaching staff. I think the coaches, they know that, right? This isn't.
And we got to run the floor. I will say that we got to run. We got to run. Like, it has to be in practice and emphasis. We gonna run all damn day until I must blow the whistle every time somebody jogging. Like, they gotta run. It has to happen.
All right, let's go to our next caller. We've got Mr. Corey here. Corey the Greater, the one that everybody loves.
Kachine, thanks for toughing it out. Corey the Recruit Brada is his new nickname.
That's right.
I don't know if you saw my title for today.
I can pull it up. Is this something that we should? Oh yes, shot fake, Mr. Shot Fake.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't care about angles. I don't care about anything. This team needs to learn how to shot fake. I have not seen anybody get blocked more than this team got blocked time after time after time. You got to do something. Definition of insanity is just keep going in there and getting blocked every single time. My God, it was painful to watch. I mean, Kachine, what's your take on that? I mean, do they stop and do hit a runner, just a jump stop?
Stop being soft. Stop being soft. You get blocked when you go up soft. This is very simple. If you're going to be soft, then you need to shot fake.
You know, who was it?
They don't do either. They don't go up strong and they don't shot fake.
So my point is, you got to do one or the other.
Well, yeah, it's not hard to shot fake.
One or the other.
You know, it's not a real difficult skill to learn. That's what that's what's so frustrating to me. That just tells me it's not emphasized. And I'd like to know that. I've asked you that several times, Kachine, and you're not a former post player, but why aren't women's basketball post players taught to shot fake?
You guys, you know what's funny? Is that we're getting blocked with the defensive players' feet still on the floor. They're not blocking our shot by jumping. So, like, what are you shot faking? She's not jumping. Like,
why is that then? You're
literally shooting the ball in her hands. She's not doing anything. She's like this, and you're shooting the ball right in her hands. She's not doing anything.
Goes up. She's going up. I don't understand her approach. I don't understand it.
Like I said before, you have 2 options. That's why I said every time he brought up the shot fake, I'm like, I understand what you're saying. The problem is, the only way shot fakes works is somebody goes in the air. And if nobody goes in the air, you're still doing the same thing you was doing before, shooting it right in her hands. In her hands.
What puzzles me is, I would say that O'Grady had better footwork and was able to work around the post and get and beat her with like a speed duck under move more times than Hannah. I don't understand why Hannah has like all but given that move up. What I haven't seen her footwork. Last year she was the master of the footwork in the post.
She's not playing in the post anymore. She doesn't work on it like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just mind blowing to watch what we're seeing with Hannah. And then, it's like you just want to see her break out of it and get like a 30-point game, get her confidence back and get rolling again. I don't know if it's mental, she couldn't have just lost all of that skill
Who was she?
from last year.
Are we talking about Sid?
No, Hannah.
Oh, Hannah.
No, she hasn't lost anything. She's just not in the right position to do it.
Isn't this also just a result?
I mean, I'm sorry, Corey. She just played the 5 in the last game. And what did she have?
16.
A double-double.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how else. Like, she started the game 4 straight buckets. Like, not 4 points. But, like, I don't understand, like, how that translates to let's go put her back at the 4. She gets more rebounds down there because she doesn't have to crash from the free throw line. She's more athletic down there. She does more, like, there's more of a mismatch down there. So, like, I don't understand why we're still doing that. But like I said, I do get because who else is going to play the 4? I'm at this point, put Hannah at the 5, and I don't care who else plays.
Aren't some of these issues, though, with Sid and with Hannah, isn't it fair to say, like Debbie says here in the chat, that all of a sudden the spotlight is on a couple of people, I mean, especially Sydney Falter and Kylie Feuerbach. Maybe not so much Hannah, but all of a sudden the spotlight is on these role players, and not all role players are meant to be star players.
No, this is a fact. Here's the thing. I used to think that this was crazy. This sentence right here used to not make any sense to me because to me, basketball is basketball, whether you start or don't start, right? But as a coach, I realize it's a mental aspect for these kids. Like they need to like feel the game out, like on the bench before. I had a high school teammate who was like that. She was our second best player, maybe third best player on the team. But she was horrific every time she started. Every single time she started, she was horrible. She was our third best player. She had to come off the bench. Maybe there is some point to that. Maybe they need to come off the bench, have a good feel for the game, and see, what the other team is doing to feel confident. I have no idea, but something got to give.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice to see McCabe heat up a little bit, but then it just didn't carry through. And then, Guyton with that 3 at the end there, she kind of forced that one. Got to give them credit, I guess, on defensively. They took away our 3-point. We didn't really have the space, and we really don't have someone that's going to create space like Caitlin Clark. So, anyway, just puzzling to me. I mean, to go in there, I don't know how many blocks did they have? My God, it had to have been 15, felt like.
I doubt that.
It was not 15, it was 9.
Okay. Well, it felt like 30. But anyway, thanks for the show, guys. I had to vent. But they're young. I am not. I don't care what they do. The future's bright with
I
these
agree.
freshmen. The future's bright, and Hawk fans need to give Jan a little grace here. When I don't care what team you are, someone takes away your Caitlin Clark, there's going to be a shock factor there, and you got to
Mr. Bluter
regroup.
would have struggled with this team. I'm gonna call it what it is.
Yeah. They've got great.
Their biggest problem right now, holistically, in hindsight, might be the fact that they were not able to use that last scholarship on a 4.
Yeah, it was way too many freshmen. They didn't think that one through. Now maybe they thought that Caitlin was gonna stay another year, so maybe that's why they did it. On the whim chance that she did stay, they would have scholarships.
They should. I know they made an attempt, but they should have gone out and gotten a 4 in the portal. They had an extra scholarship. Like their biggest problem, especially given the fact what happened
They don't
with
have 15 people.
Ava Jones. Well, they don't. How many scholars? You get 15 scholars. They have 14 players, don't they? Don't they have 14 on the roster?
I don't know. Does Ava still count because they're playing her scholarship?
No, she took a medical. She's off the team. They have. Let me look at their thing. Yeah, they have 14 players on the roster, so they have an unused scholarship.
Are we certain?
I'm looking at the roster.
No, that's not what I mean. I don't know why that I feel like it's been a while, so I don't quite remember all the rules. But I wonder, a part of me feels like even though she took a medical, she still counts because it's money going out.
Ava Jones?
Yes. Yeah, we know the scholarship limit is 15 on a women's basketball roster. But
yeah, because she's taking up a scholarship. They medically whatever. But I don't remember. There's something about it doesn't happen often, so that's why I don't remember. I think I've only been a part of it another time. It was one other time. But I wonder if that had anything to do with it. But either way, I think, like I said before, they didn't know what Caitlin was going to do, and they wanted to make sure they had one for her. So I completely understand that.
Got nothing to do. She announced she was gone during the last season. That's got nothing to do with what they did or didn't do in the portal.
No, what I'm saying is I know that she said that she's off the team, meaning but who is playing her scholarship?
She took a medical disqualification and retired from playing in college per ESPN last June.
Okay.
I mean,
so she's paying for her own college?
She's still on scholarship, but I believe
that's what I'm saying.
I don't believe that counts against your total.
I don't know, but I'm just asking. I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe that somebody can look it up. Heck, I don't know.
Yep.
But either way it goes, I think that they didn't. The makeup of the team is off, regardless. The makeup of the team is a little bit off because of. Could they have nobody likes, and I say this, no program wants to be 15 deep. Nobody wants to be that. It's not the best scenario. You would like to be 13 every year, not even 14. That's still too many. So that's kind of like my thing. It's like you don't want to fill up your scholarships with that. And then on top of that, how many players do you have coming out versus how many players do you already have signed? Because if you sign a 4-player, how many years they got?
Well,
does that make sense?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, if you sign a 4-player in the portal last year, now you have a full roster of 15. That means everything going out is the only amount you could have coming in from that then on out. Nobody wants to do that. Coaches don't like that because it makes you. It's not a good feeling. Let's just say that. I didn't know why Iowa did that to begin with because that's not normal. Even if Ava would have been staying, you're still at 15. You have no wiggle room. Same thing like we were saying. You go ahead.
Wiggle room for what?
To make a change. You can't force these kids out. So let's just say next year, right? We have 15. Let's just for the sake of conversation, Ava is playing. You have 15 players. How many ever is leaving is how many scholarships you have available for the next year.
Right. Yes.
So if these kids, you offer 10 players scholarships, high school players, right? If 3 of them take the only 3 you got and you go through the season and you're like, we need a this, that, and a third, you have no wiggle room to get any in the offseason because your scholarships are gone. That's why you don't want to have 14 or 15. You want to have 13 so that you have room to move in the offseason because players are already committed out of high school at that point.
Okay. But when I say transfer portal 4, look at what they did with Lucy Olson. They added a guard because they had a need with 1 year left.
I understand.
So if they had a scholarship available, which they knew they had it available, and here's an article from the Gazette when Ava Jones announced that she was taking a medical disqualification.
I saw it already in the chat. Go ahead.
She will remain on scholarship. That scholarship no longer counts towards Iowa's maximum of 15.
Okay, so they have an extra scholarship.
The program does have a scholarship. They chose not to use it or didn't have anybody to use it. But if you've got an extra scholarship, and it should have been clear, I would think, It should have been clear, given the fact that these coaches' jobs to evaluate your roster and where you're at in the offseason. It should have been clear that they were in need of a 4 who could give them immediate production. And
yeah, but I'm talking about after that. I know where you guys are thinking right now. Coaches are thinking 2 and 3 years out from there. So the only way this works, if you find a player who fits in your system with 1 year left.
Correct.
That's it. That's not an easy thing to do.
1 or 2.
Not even 2, because I'm only saying one. I'm only saying not even 2, only because I don't know how many scholarships and how many players are already committed at that point in time. But if you do that, then that means you got to yank somebody's scholarship from a high school student so that you don't overload yourself again.
Well, all I know is they've got 3 players? Am I right? 3 players next year: Journey Houston, Layla Hayes. No, Hayes is 20. Is she 26 now? Let me pull up the scholarship distribution chart. But the bottom line is we can both agree on this. They had room for a 1 year 4, and I know a graduate 4. And I know maybe those aren't as hard to come by, or aren't as easy to come by as I'm making it out.
No, they're not easy. No.
But they couldn't have found somebody who was viable. I find that hard to believe. I find that there wouldn't have been somebody, even if it was at the mid-major.
Well, I know coaches in general scour the thing. Transfers.
Sure.
There's a lot that goes into that. And I'm not, if they had an extra scholarship, my assumption is that they were looking for exactly what we just talked about. A 4 player who has 1 year left that can come in, fit right away, and translate into what we have going on. That's not always an easy feat, especially with a post player or a 4 player of some sort, because they gotta be able to shoot. They got to be able to do all these other things. Now, the other problem is with that is there's other people vying for them, if that's the case too. So at the end of the day, there's no telling what they did and didn't do, or who they reached out to and didn't reach out to. But the fact of the matter is that they did have an extra scholarship. Should they have went for them? Yeah, absolutely. And if I know that we know that, they know that. So I have every right to believe, based on the staff, that they tried to. We just don't know it. That's all. It's not like, unless they came on a visit. So the only
was
that's
it last year. Was it last year or the year before? It was the year before that they tried to go after Anissa Morrow, correct?
Yeah, that was the year before.
Wasn't there somebody in the portal last year? Somebody in the chat helped me. Wasn't there somebody that Iowa did make contact with last off season? I believe there was, in addition to Lucy. I believe it was a forward. But I'm just saying, I do think it's fair to criticize that it's one thing to not be able to land a like a high-end 4 or high-end forward in the portal, maybe because you don't have NIL funding, or they just pick someone else. Like Anissa Morrow went to LSU. That's understandable. But I just can't believe that there was not someone else that at a minimum that would fit that mold of what you need for 1 year, that was good enough to play spot minutes. They just need a warm body who's actually a true 4 right now.
Yeah, but I don't think any of us thought that Hannah would be where she is right now either, or predicted her to have the summer that she had and not be able to.
And that's fair point. That's a fair point. I'm fine with that. That was not. If there was real confidence from the staff that Hannah was going to be able to develop her game from the outside, be able to develop some sort of a dribble game, or certainly just a jumper, even if it's just a mid-range jumper. She has not shown that, and perhaps that is due to the time that's during the off season. But
we also didn't think Sydney Falta would be doing what she's doing either. So, in my mindset, if I'm going into the season, I'm thinking, okay, I got Hannah at the 4, I got Addie at the 5, I got Ava as a backup 5, I have Sydney Falta potentially as a backup 4, which I would have picked that if I had any decision. You've got all of these guards that can do something. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that in their mindset, based off of where we ended last year and what we had coming back, that they knew or thought that the 4 was that important. I based off of what we had, I don't think we would have thought where we're going to be right now. If somebody told you that Sydney Falta will be non-existent and Hannah is doing what she's doing right now at the 4 position, we would be like, what?
Yeah, we would be that way. But the hope is that the staff would have had a better read on that than we would have.
Well, again, I don't think the staff thought that Sydney Falta was going to do what she's doing. I don't care, injury or not.
Yeah.
Well, but I think, they probably didn't get to see, get a good look of things with the injury and with other people, coming off of injury. Maybe you didn't get to practice together. You didn't get to develop that. And maybe it'll still develop. But what do you see is it possible to even try to slide Hayden in at a 4? I mean, she's
Can she
really
shoot?
agile.
Can she shoot?
No.
Then no.
Addison can, but Addison can't play the 4.
No, I'm just take away the in order for us to have a 4, she got to be able to shoot the basketball,
Right.
of some sort. She got to be a threat of some sort.
That's why I said their best option may just be to throw Tegan Mullaney in there and
Something.
see what happens.
Like I said, I don't know if Jada can shoot it or not. I mean, she done shot a couple, but
I would not be putting Jada anywhere close to the starting 4. Or I wouldn't be giving her.
Come on, hold.
I would not.
I didn't say she starts now, but I'm saying at some point, if we all know that we can't win without Hannah. That's we cannot win without Hannah. And if the only way that she is productive in our offense is at the 5, then we got to figure out the rest. Whatever that looks like. If you got to split time with Jada and Sydney and so, and you got to piece people, that's what it's going to be. Because Tegan Mullaney, or we're going to play a lot of zone. That's what's going to happen. If we cannot get a 4, Tegan Mullaney, that she can guard a 4, then we got to play zone. Change up the defense then.
Corey, anything else before I let you go?
No, I'm all in. Go Hawks. Keep the faith. Don't panic. Give Jan her grace. Any coach would be struggling with this. She'll figure it out.
I agree.
Appreciate
Go
it, Corey.
Hawkeyes.
Great night. Go Hawks. 100%. All right. Winding down here, we've got some questions in the chat we want to hit. Nobody on hold, so we'll seemingly shut the call line down for the time being. Let's go quick fire on some of these final comments and questions. Mike says, we've got to get back to running. I've said it all year. Lucy's not pushing it like Iowa does. Guyton is really the only one that pushes the ball. I would say Taylor Strimlow pushes the ball too. Mm-hmm. But we need to get easy points. I agree with that. I got to get in transition more. I know that's not, I think just from a recruiting perspective, you brought that up earlier. Mm-hmm. Some of these players, if they came in for the style of play that they had seen at Iowa, and now the anticipation was, well, we were not going to miss a beat with Coach Jay. This could scare some recruits off, I think.
I can agree with that statement. I will say, I think somebody had said it earlier. I don't remember. Maybe I saw it on Flash Across that, with more running comes more turnovers, and we're already turnover prone. Running doesn't mean we have to do the home run pass like Caitlin Clark did. Running means if you run, the defense is going to lose you, and you can get an open 3. Something of that sort. Like, it doesn't mean that we got to do the Caitlin from freaking 3 quarters down the court. Like, that's not just what running is. Yeah, that was what Caitlin was good at. Doesn't mean that we have to do that. But it allows us to confuse the defense enough to get easy looks, whether that's an easy 3 in transition, an easy 2-on-1 scenario, or something of that sort. So I get why anybody would be a little nervous because we're already a little turnover prone. But the thing is, it doesn't have to be a long pass like that.
Very interesting. I'm looking at the player that we were talking about. You know who that was?
Who?
It was Miriam Dowda from Arkansas, who's now at South Carolina. What's interesting about this is Dowda's, I don't know what she did. I haven't watched a lot of South Carolina basketball this year. I'm sure you have, Kachine. But she is 6'4". More of a 4 or a 5.
I mean, it depends on what her skill level is.
Oh, you haven't seen it. The reason I ask that is she's not playing much at South Carolina. She's playing, minutes per game.
Let me tell you something. Whoever was guiding that person, whoever was guiding her, guided her incorrectly.
She played 29 minutes a game last year at Arkansas. She's playing 6.5 minutes per game this year at South Carolina. Has not started a single game. Her points per game average went from 10 down to 2. Rebounds per game, 6 down to 2.
They needed to look at what they had on that roster, because South Carolina is pretty post heavy. They had some big time post players coming in, especially as freshmen. Like that was probably the worst decision that person could have made, just simply because you're saying you're going to South Carolina. Whoever that was did not help her well.
And she's somebody. I'm looking at her 3-point percentage. She actually shot an okay rate last year. She shot about 3 threes a game. She shot a career high 32% from 3. Not great, but honestly, I mean, that might have been a better match for both parties. Had Iowa been able to reel her in, she'd be playing more than 6.5 minutes a game at Iowa.
Yeah, she would.
And, you know, she might be able to actually make an impact at the 4. All right, let's go quick fire on some of these comments here. First of all, Mark, thank you for the super chat. Do appreciate that. And Patrick, same thing. He says, I love the show. Makes me feel better after a rough loss. Well, I appreciate that.
So happy for you.
Patrick. Tim says, good afternoon, Kachine. Who is doing the Iowa subs?
I don't know, Tim.
That's Jan, right?
I don't know. Let me say this. At Lisa Bluter's situation is Lisa Bluter always did the guard subs and Coach Jay always did the post subs. So I have no idea what they got going on now. I don't know.
I noticed Jan had Abby Stamp drawing up a play at some point today in the second half. But and then Dude Liberty says you can't replace Cece. With that said, this team is better than they have been showing.
Agreed.
You think they're better than they have been showing recently?
I do. Like, okay, we know Hannah is better than what she's showing. We know Sydney Falter is better than what she's showing. That two right there.
Individuals might be better, but I don't know that makes them collectively.
But I think collectively, if we think about it, right, if Sydney is giving us end of the year last year, Sydney, that change, that alone changes how we look as a team.
I agree. Back to Tim. He says, has the University of Iowa been in contact with you, Kachine, about being a defensive coordinator?
No, Tim.
I appreciate that, Tim. Brant says, does it seem like Hannah doesn't look at the rim before she shoots down low?
That's a possibility.
Yeah. If she's not looking at the rim, she's not ever looking at the rim. That's probably an issue. Kachine, what would your 5 be? And Laura agrees. Laura wants to hear about your starting 5 as well. Who would you start against Nebraska this Thursday? And is McCabe in that lineup? Against her old, hey, it's also a game where Taylor McCabe has extra reason to play well because it's against her home state.
So here's the problem with Nebraska is they have that beast of a post player.
Markowski.
However, I will go into it telling Hannah that she has to be just as active as she was against Audie Crooks. That's the kind of defense that she will have to have against her because Addie cannot guard her from the 3-point line. So I'm starting Hannah at the 5.
Okay.
Sydney at the 4. Good Lord, Jesus help me.
No way.
I'm probably going with Lucy at the 1.
Okay.
Taylor McCabe at the 2.
Okay.
And I'm going. I'm gonna go with Taylor Stremlow at the 3.
Stremlow's playing the 3.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's not bad. I don't. That's interesting. That's an interesting.
I think that I was struggling because the issue you'll run into is I don't like Aaliyah Guyton, Lucy, and Taylor McCabe together. I don't like that 3.
Yeah.
We lack toughness in that group, and I don't like that. So that's why Taylor Stremlow gets the nod over Aaliyah, specifically because I know I have to start McCabe because of her shooting ability and kind of like she's been driving up. She had a little fire today, so I like that.
Yeah, she did.
But That's who I would go with, only because I need a little toughness out of that group.
Okay, I like that answer. Actually, that's intriguing.
Nobody shoot me. Thank you.
How much time has Stremlo had at the 3 this year?
Honestly, I have no idea. But that's what she's. Here's the thing: in our offense, 1, 2, 3 is interchangeable. In our offense, 1, 2, and 3 is interchangeable. Everybody's taking out the ball. Everybody's brought the ball up. All of that's interchangeable. Yep. So luckily for us, that's a good thing.
Kachine, that's why no shade to coach, but Jada needs to play.
He's talking about when I said we don't have a 4. And when I was like, at this point, as long as Hannah's at the 5, I don't really care after that.
I was not trying to imply that I thought Jada was the answer. I think that's more where I feel that's part of the problem. Like they've missed on recruits. Yeah. It's kind of like Iowa football with the offensive line for years. Like guys weren't developing fast enough. They missed on recruits. They had medical issues. Hey, the women have had Ava Jones. That was terribly unfortunate. And that, obviously her health was of primary importance, but it also affected Iowa because she was a piece, a 4-star recruit that they had high hopes for. And she was in this terrible accident. So there are reasons for this. Jim wants to know if Lucy's injured. Not that I'm aware of.
Not that, yeah.
And she was same thing.
Okay, right. Is Callie Levine hurt or not? Somebody tell me.
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm not understanding why. Like, is the girl horrible? Like, she can't get a couple minutes? Like, this
for who? For who?
At this point, anybody. Like, she's either got to be really bad in one way aspect, whether she can't guard her shadow, maybe a couple aspects, because if it's just one, well, we can make up the rest. But if I remember correctly, people are excited about her. So I don't understand what happened. Is she mentally not something? She not catching on? Like the game too fast? Because I don't understand how she hasn't gotten a look, a sniff, or something. Even when Aaliyah was kind of like at the beginning of her situation, like we couldn't have put her in for a minute or two. It's no way. Aaliyah is very talented. Don't get me wrong, right? But it's no way that she's coming back from injury and she comes right in and starts playing as soon as she's healthy. Like something's up with Callie Levine. Like that something is off with that. You can't tell me otherwise. Something's wrong.
Eric agrees with your starters against Nebraska. Barbara says that Levine has a commercial on TV, but of course she's not playing.
Craziest thing ever.
Well, you've never said anything about that until today.
Cause I keep like racking my brain every time. I'm like, I don't understand how she's not getting anything. Because I remember people talking about her. Callie Levine, state championship and all these great things that she can do. She can pass like Caitlin. I remember all this stuff. And I'm like, she ain't getting not a sniff of the court. That's crazy.
Well, yeah, Stacy says that apparently she was on Jada's show, and apparently she said something about being injured. Although
something going on because she's Miss Basketball and she ain't getting no playing time. That's insane.
Well, Miss Basketball in Iowa is not necessarily the same.
Yeah, but we need shooters. We need something. Taylor McCabe last year couldn't guard a soul. Okay, and she was playing simply because she could shoot the basketball. So I'm not understanding what the difference is if that's the case. Something's up with that. But anyways, keep going.
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is you can't play 14 people.
Well, there's a couple people who ain't shooting the ball well, so.
I know. I don't understand. I've had a hard time over the last couple of years understanding conceptually how this scholarship thing in women's basketball works. Because you don't take red shirts. You have more scholarships than the men. Mm-hmm. And then you don't fill your scholarships. So I'm just trying to figure out what happens there. You don't have walk-ons. To me, a lot of that doesn't make much sense. So I've just accepted that Callie Levine isn't good enough to play. And
yeah, that's weird.
That's why. Well,
maybe she's struggling with the transition. That's the only thing I can think of.
Bob wants to know if you think Iowa will go to the portal for a 4.
I don't know. Bob, I don't know what our scholarship count is, but at the end of the season, Corey and myself will take a look at what we have coming back and what we need. and I'll give you a better answer, Bob.
And Nicholas says he asked a question on Hawk Talk about the team's goals. Coach Jay said the goals were internal, did not want criticism if the stated goals were missed. I'd have to listen to that.
That's a fair assessment.
I'd have to listen to that.
Nobody tells you your goals.
Patrick says Kylie's performance completely dropped off the map the moment she remained a starter after Sid came back. That is interesting. It did seem to be a correspondence with how she played before Sydney Falter was available and how she played after Sydney Falter was available. You have noticed that, right, Kachine?
Yeah.
There was a stark difference between both time periods.
Well,
Rich says, how about going with Hannah, Addie, Ava, Stremlo, and Olsen?
I don't even know what offense we would run with that.
So basically,
clog up the paint more is what he said.
So Hannah's playing the 3? Who's playing the 3?
Hannah's
playing the 3.
Yeah, Ava playing the 4 and Addie's playing the 5.
Who's gonna make shots? I want to know.
And Stremlo can't shoot either. None of them can shoot.
Lucy can shoot.
I mean, from inside the 3.
Let's see here. Kelvin says Kachine coaching an offense and movement takes this many games. Coaching offense and movement takes this many games. I don't know what the question is there. Terry says Sydney, Kylie, and Addie are at their ceiling. Is Hannah able to upload her game, or is she at her ceiling?
She's not at her ceiling yet, but this offseason is going to be cool.
Clock is ticking. Clock is ticking.
It only takes 1 year.
Terry, thank you for being a premium subscriber here as well. Kate says several of the freshmen commits have said they chose Iowa because of their style of play. What are they thinking watching Jan run a different offense?
Yeah. Oh, I ain't got one for that.
Catherine says, Kachine, you need some help in fighting the virus. Make sure you're taking at least 5,000 IU of vitamin D3. With
hold on. Keep that up there. Yeah.
8 absorption, 30 to 40.
Take a picture of that because that was a lot.
1,000 milligrams of vitamin C daily and rest.
Yes, ma'am.
Dave loves the stats on Kylie's ceiling. Do you have those stats for Sid? Yes. In fact, let's look at them before we log off here. So here are Sydney Falter's stats. If you're looking comparable to comparing, I should say, relative to last year. So these are her per game stats. And of course, her minutes are up slightly in 2024, 2025. No question. Her field goal percentage has gone down.
Damn, they played 39 games last year. Jesus. Whew.
39 games last year, yeah.
Field
goal percentage went down from 55% to 46%. 3-point percentage has went down from 41.4% to 33%. Her free throw percentage has plummeted from 83% to 69%. Holy cow. That is startling.
It just kept going down.
Rebounds that went up by 1. So, doesn't look like her rebounding on paper has really been affected. And let's see, turn the ball over a little bit more, averaging less as far as points. So let's look at her per 40 numbers. I'll scroll down here and look at her per 40 numbers. Her per 40 numbers are down. I don't think there's any question about that.
Like we were talking about her being Big Ten tournament MVP.
Again, I don't think her rebounding has been affected, Kachine.
All her rebounds are like defensive. It's not even making it.
Averaging the literally 0.1 rebounds more than she was last year per 40 minutes.
I bet she was less offensive, though.
Okay. Well,
I can guarantee you that.
But she's certainly taken a dip in points, and she's turning the ball over much more. And part of that is, she's got the ball in her hands more. I get that. But, her and Kylie, they're not giving this team what they need right now. So, Starstruck Nut says, could the offense be because Jan was a post and she coached that way with the bigs? We've talked about that, right?
Yeah, I love your name, though. That's awesome.
Okay. And then, let's see, LeBron De La Vein
says,
said on X, why is Levine not playing, and her father agreed.
Oh, well, hell. I ain't got nothing for you then.
Okay. I'd have to
If she was injured, he would have said she was injured. So
I'd have to see that. Does that mean that he liked the post, or does that mean he actually said, yes, I agree? I doubt he said, yes, I agree.
Either way, if your kid is injured and somebody says that, you will write it. You will say, well, she's injured. We're going to look at blah, blah, blah. Whether he liked it or actually said yes is enough for me.
Yep. And a parent's always
because Aaliyah Guyton Daddy was all over X when people were saying she got to play, and he's like, yep, she sure does. Like, now, mind you, he is who he is. So
he is AJ Guyton.
Right. Like, by all means, we understand why, but still, most parents are going to say something if it's that.
By the way,
his dad says that all the time on social media.
By the way, folks, speaking of AJ Guyton, I had a conversation with AJ here a couple of days ago, and we're looking to get him. We're going to add him to the show at some point.
Oh, that should be fun.
I initially put it out there for today since this was against his alma mater, but given the circumstances, maybe a different day is a little bit better. Don't necessarily want to catch AJ on the first 3 games.
Against like a Purdue at home or Northwestern or something like that.
And my understanding is AJ was there. I don't know how many games AJ makes it to, but he was there today, I believe. All right, folks. Appreciate Kachine being here, even though you're a little under the weather still. We hope you get better. We need you back full strength. So
I'm working on it.
Okay. You got that little prescription written down? And
I did. I have it on my phone. At this point, I'll try anything. I'm over it.
How's Juliana? Is she fine?
She's great.
Yeah, that's how it works. That's how it works. Folks, the Hawkeyes will take on the Nebraska Cornhuskers on Thursday evening. That game begins at 6 p.m. Central Time. It'll be televised on Big Ten Network, so all the people who complain about BTN or Big Ten Plus and Peacock, enjoy the game on Thursday night. We'll have post-game coverage. And, of course, like and subscribe here from the Hawkeye of the Storm before you leave. And if you're interested in donating to the show, you can do that. There are links to Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, all in the description of every one of our videos. So check that out. It's a way you can support the channel and the show. Kachine, always a pleasure. Get to feeling a little bit better, and we'll plan on talking to you here later this week.
Yes, sir.
All right, folks, for Kachine Alexander, I'm Corey Barata from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Be sure you're liked, you're subscribed, you got your notification bell turned on, and we'll talk to you next time.